Snoop Dogg was so sweet. I was so surprised at how nice he was, how cool he was, how chill he was. And then he has this guy who just makes blunts for him. Like, he's like the artisan of blunt making. Like, he was like so meticulous about it. It was so funny.
Hello there and welcome to a brand new episode of Hop on Comms, the show that brings you behind the curtain of the gaming and pop culture industry to give you a bit more insight about the people that make it such an amazing place and give you some stories too. So you can find out a bit more about what goes on there, how people have got to where they are. If you're brand new to gaming or want to find out exactly what's going on and want to jump in with 2 feet, this is the show for you. Today, I'm really happy to introduce karacorvus to the show. Kara and I actually met a few years ago, I think, on a Twitch Rivals show. Twitch Rivals, for those of you guys who don't know what Twitch Rivals is a show where basically Twitch streamers go head-to-head in different kind of formats, different genres, different games, and they collaborate, work with each other to win cash prizes. It's a really great way of showcasing kind of up-and-coming streamers, kind of getting big hitters as well, growing communities, a really fun thing. And we've often worked together, me primarily as host and Kara as an analyst or caster on these different shows, but we've worked together on kind of these productions and gotten to know each other as friends. And I think as well, we kind of get into this conversation about how we actually met properly during lockdown. I think it was the first time maybe that we were in the same kind of lobbies playing games together. A lot of streamers kind of came together and were collaborating because no one could go anywhere, no events were happening. A lot of people turned to streaming, which we find out about in this conversation as well, kind of what happened in that kind of time period, how it was for Kara, how Twitch has changed, some personal stories, and the fact that Kara collects snakes. She's like a snake parent, which we find out about, which is amazing. I don't know anyone with exotic pets, and Kara gives us some insight into that as well. But I really enjoyed this conversation. It was a really fun time. Kara's a brilliant person, and make sure to sit back and enjoy this one. It was really fun to record. I hope you like it. Kara, there are so many different strings to your bow here. You're a streamer, actress, cosplayer. I've even read microbiologist. These are all true.
There's a couple more, but I'll spare the details. So I was a microbiologist starting out, and then I was an actress, and then I was a streamer, and then I started doing voice acting, and then I started doing casting.
We're very similar in that we've had to diversify. One of those things I want to add to the list behind you, snake collector, snake parent.
Snake keeper. I think they typically call it a snake keeper, but I will also accept snake parent.
And you have, how many snakes do you have?
I have 6, but I currently have 6 eggs that I'm waiting for them to hatch, which will happen this week. So I will have 12 at the beginning of next week.
Okay, this is the first time you've had snake babies. This has gone a really weird way, this conversation. I didn't expect this, but snake children, are you prepped for those to arrive?
Oh yeah, everything is prepped. I have all their enclosures ready to go. I have food for them. I keep little rats in the freezer. Yeah, so they're all ready.
Delicious. Is there a favorite snake? Dare I ask? Is there a favorite one?
Ooh, okay. A parent can't choose favorites, right?
I know.
But there's always a but with every parent, I'm sure. Some snakes have better qualities than others. I love them all for their own sakes, but I do have one that I think is the most beautiful.
Can we see it? Can we see the snake?
Oh yes, absolutely.
Can you ask a person to see their snake? I don't know if that's the etiquette. I don't know.
I'll give consent.
Thank you. Can we meet the snake?
Yeah, let me go get him.
Yes, this is amazing. Now, I didn't expect this to happen. I knew that Kara was the owner of snakes. We've talked about it before, but to see one, I love snakes. I say I love snakes. I respect the snake. I respect snakes. Spiders, different thing. But oh my goodness, Kara, what is there we go. Oh my gosh. That's amazing. Why am I whispering?
This is soba, like soba noodles. He's a big noodle.
What a beautiful color as well. Like, that's incredible. Hi, soba. Can't hear me, but still. Wow, that's amazing. Because the thing is, you're the only person I've ever met that has an exotic pet.
Really?
I don't know anybody. In the UK, we're very dull. It's gerbils, hamsters, maybe a cat. That's how we roll.
And I heard you keep all your cats outside. Is that true?
Yeah, we do. Just let them be cats. Let them do them. Obviously, snakes aside, you've got this incredible career, and as I mentioned at the top of the show here as well, we love to talk to people who are kind of understand kind of how they first got into gaming. I'm very aware there's a lot of people out there who kind of have either lost touch with gaming, who want to learn more about kind of like the world of streaming and cosplay. And I want to get onto that for sure. Can you take me back though to like the first kind of your first experience of like games, how you kind of found your footing in that kind of space? Like, well, the first one you played, where were you when that kind of happened? What was it like for Kara back then?
Well, when I was 3 years old, I got an NES, Nintendo Entertainment System, from my older cousin. And the only games I had were Zelda. And then, are you familiar with like the Mario Brothers Duck Hunt, like duo cartridge?
Oh my God, yes. You're speaking, the Zapper was my life.
Yes, and I had the Zapper gun. And I would always shoot the dog in Duck Hunt because his laugh pissed me off, even as a little kid. So
I love it. Even petty at 3. I love it. I love it, Kara.
Those are my 3 main games as a little child. And then I got the N64, and then I got Ocarina of Time, which I think might be one of my favorite games of all time, just because it just opened like a whole world of like, oh my God, this is what a video game can be. This is amazing. I mean, you look back at it now and it like, there's some growing pains. Like it doesn't live up as much, but I think the gameplay and the story are still wonderful.
I think Ocarina of Time is one of those games that I think has managed to somehow speak to most people out there. It's like kind of one of those kind of defining games that everyone kind of remembers. It's one of those games that, yeah, you're right. Even now, because obviously the emulators on like the Switch now as well, you can play like Ocarina of Time, like kind of like a slightly kind of buffed version of it, and it is amazing to play still after all these years. Mm-hmm. But did you have like, were you kind of playing other games outside of kind of like the single player stuff at all? Were you kind of doing more multiplayer based things, or did you have kind of a group of friends that were a network that you were all kind of playing together?
I did. Even as a little kid, I would invite all the neighbor kids over, and we'd play like Mario Party or Super Smash, like the original one. We'd play Bomberman a lot. In fact, there was one time I won a game against my friend, and I guess my friend took it really hard, and he accidentally broke the glass on my coffee table, and my mother was not happy at all. She was, but that's like a memory in my mind that just like I always remember, because I'm like, oh my God, video games caused the coffee table to break.
Because of games, the house is being destroyed. Coffee tables aside, I mean, I totally vouch that. I think that's great. And I think, speaking of all these different things that you kind of, with all the different kind of roles you've had since, when you've got games like that and you're playing them as a youngster, did you ever for a second think when you were younger that games was going to be some kind of like part of your career in any way, shape or form?
Absolutely not. I mean, like, back then you just play video games because it's fun. You don't think like this could be a career or this could be something you could make money from. But luckily my parents were very supportive of video games because they also played video games. So, for example, I was playing Super Mario Brothers, or the N64 version. And at the time I was so young, I was afraid of Bowser. So I would have to have my mom defeat Bowser for me. So even my parents were like in on the gaming. So they never like stifled my video game playing. As long as I got all my stuff done, I could play video games as long as I wanted. So I think that really helped with like not having a stigma against it, and then thus in my adulthood being able to go into it and be like, video games are awesome. Let's see if I can make something from it,
Do you know what the craziest thing is? And this is what I love about kind of like consequence and such. The same conversation with my 6-year-old happened today. He's playing Super Mario Brothers Wonder and says to me, "Daddy, can you beat Bowser for me?" Literally happened today.
No way.
This is insane. I can't believe this. This is a thing. That's awesome. I mean, because it's quite rare. Because there are, again, I'd say, I'm being kind of, I'm stereotyping here, but I don't think there were too many parents who were kind of like, would necessarily jump onto games back then. A lot of people I think we talked to on the show as well, that was never really their kind of plan, was to kind of get into games. It was like, it just happened for me. And since then, you went to, I guess, college, and the destiny was microbiology. What was the turning point? How did it kind of go from college and doing that into what you do now?
So yeah, went to college, got a degree in evolutionary biology, got a job as a microbiologist, thought, okay, this is going to be my career until I die, probably. But then I realized I didn't like it. Like I liked the science, but I didn't like the kind of like the bureaucracy or the like office politics that went along with it. But like people who didn't align with my interests, I guess I didn't really care for. So during that, I got into acting and modeling, and then we had an intern at our office who played a lot of League of Legends. So I'd start, like I had played before this, but I played more League of Legends with him, and he was more into like the pro gaming streaming scene. So he kind of got me more into that. Like we went to some pro League of Legends games, and I met a bunch of pro players, and then that allowed me to meet someone who worked at Riot, and then they set me up as like the manager of a pro gaming team he was trying to make. Not manager, but like, I don't even know what I was called, but like the help, the help of the team.
The help.
And then through that, I met some people who were already streaming, and then they told me, hey, you should just be a streamer. Like, you play video games, you can make it work, you can be funny when I want to, I guess. So I took that to heart, and I was like, yeah, why not? I'm not really having a good time at my scientist job. I may as well start trying to stream. And so I did. And then 3 months later, I got partnered. And then as soon as, like, the day I got partnered, I turned in my resignation. And I'm like, I'm out of here.
Because isn't it partner as well? It's got the criteria is that you've got to have a certain amount of viewers. You've got to have like a certain amount of hours as well, I think, to be partner.
It's not the same as it was back then as it is now. So now it's like very clearly defined what you need to be partner. But back then, it was like the Wild West. It was like 8 years ago. They didn't really have any of the guidelines on Twitch of what you need. So like on like the Twitch partner requirements page, it said around 300 to 500 viewers. And I'm like, what? But luckily at the time I had like 300 viewers because I just got so incredibly lucky in picking a niche that wasn't really tapped into yet. So I got rejected my first time. And then I applied again like a month later. Or like 2 weeks later, and I got accepted. It was much harder back then. You had to have a lot of viewers. You had to really like be on top of it. You had to basically turn in like an acceptance, like or an essay, like when you apply to college, like an application essay.
What? No way.
Yeah. So I had to write like an essay of like why I want to be partner and what I can bring to the Twitch community and why I should be partner. And then my stats and my views and stuff. Yeah, it was hardcore back then.
Because a partner basically means you kind of you get like a better ad revenue share, do you, that kind of thing? And
yeah, you get a subscription button. You get better ad revenue. So they were very choosy back then, and luckily I made the cut. So when that happened, I dropped everything in my scientist job and I devoted my entire life into streaming and video games after that.
Was that niche you mentioned as well, that were you purposely picking specific games that you thought that weren't being kind of, imagine a game like League of Legends, which is going to obviously have a massive, fan base of players, playing it, watching it. Did you purposely pick games that didn't have quite the same kind of like the saturation that you would make you kind of stand out from a crowd a bit more?
So funny enough, I got partnered back then off of the creative category. So they had just made the creative category, so like art and stuff like that. But I was making cosplay armor on stream. So that was the niche that I somehow fell into because I'm incredibly like procrastinative. Is that a word?
It sounds legit. It sounds fine.
And at the time I was going to a bunch of conventions like in cosplay. That's where the cosplayer part comes in. But I would always wait until like the last weekend to finish like an entire armor cosplay. So I figured, okay, I'm going to keep myself honest and I'm going to stream myself making the cosplay so that I work on it before like the last weekend. So that's really why I started streaming as well. Like not just the games, like I started with games and then I was like, I gotta get this cosplay done. So I just did cosplay streaming and no one else was doing it at the time. So it was the niche that I had found on accident. So I ended up getting a lot of viewers from that. And also because the category was brand new. It was like the first non-gaming category on Twitch back then. Like just chatting was not a thing. IRL was not a thing. It was just creative.
I mean, because the cosplay thing, I'm fascinated about that. I want to ask before we jump into cosplay, because it's this crazy world where I'll let you know, Cara, in my repertoire of weird and wonderful things that I've achieved in my career, I have been in Dubai and judged a cosplay competition. I don't know how the hell that happened, but that was a thing that I did once. So if there's anybody who knows cosplay, the word of cosplay, definitely not me, but I've kind of seen it. I've kind of been there a little bit. Okay, I want to ask you about the current state of Twitch, because I think a lot of people kind of see there's a lot of things. You hear about these other streaming platforms like YouTube or Kick, and these other ones kind of that are surfacing. And Twitch obviously has announced lots of kind of things happening at the company recently and changes. How have those changes affected you, and what's your kind of your feeling around Twitch at the moment, and what you kind of see the future of Twitch being too?
So for me, the current changes to Twitch have not, well, I kind of like the direction that Twitch is going, because with the new CEO, he has kind of like eased up on a lot of the restrictions. For example, like multi-streaming. So now you can stream to multiple platforms at the same time, which I think is great for everybody, honestly. Before it was very restrictive. Like in my contract, it said specifically, you cannot stream anywhere else. You have to wait 24 hours before uploading a VOD to anywhere else. Very restrictive. And I think the new CEO realized that that wasn't the way to grow. So I do like that direction that they're taking. And I also like that they are kind of also easing up on the TOS a little bit, which is great. But back then I got banned once for wearing a tank top that showed too much cleavage, even though I was playing a video game.
In an era of jacuzzi streamers. I mean, what?
Before hot tub streamers was a thing. But I was just wearing a regular tank top, and I made a joke because someone in chat called me a thought. That's how far back this was, when that was a word that people used. And I'm like, oh, well, you want to see thought? I'll show you thought. And then I just put the gameplay covering my face as a joke for a couple minutes, and that banned me. That got me banned because I wore a tank top. I dared to wear a tank top and also cover my face with gameplay. I do like that they've eased up on those restrictions, because I still don't think I did anything wrong. I'm not coming on here to be salty, but I'm just saying there were some instances of punishment for a lot of people that I don't think made sense, especially because back then the TOS was very not specific. It was very ambiguous, I guess. You could twist anything to make it seem like you were breaking the rules for something. So I do like the direction TOS has gone now, where they kind of specify things a lot more, and they've also eased up. So I do like that aspect a lot.
It's a strange thing. Streaming's, I think, is because I've tried my hand at streaming, and streaming is one of these things where particularly during the as a gazillion people did during kind of the lockdown period where we couldn't really go out and do much, everyone kind of jumped online, I know that massively affected things like CPMs, that people earnings and such, and viewers, and again diluting kind of what people could grab, because there were so many more viewers than usual, but it was also lucrative in many aspects too. But streaming it's tough. Even you and I, trying to find a place to kind of do this, is you are in between lobbies and you've got commitments and you've got all these different things, because there's so many different streaming is a real full-time grind as well. But part of that, I think, naturally you're opening yourself up to the world in terms of kind of comments and toxicity and that kind of thing. The experiences you found too, because I guess a lot of listeners or viewers, again, were kind of wondering about that, because you kind of hear about it in the press quite a lot, the news, what that is. What's been your experience of that? And how have you overcome those kind of things?
It has gotten a lot better in recent years. When I first started, it was a cesspool. I'm going to be honest. Every day I'd get weird comments, I'd get threats just for existing. It was very weird, because I'm like, I don't even know you. I haven't even talked to you. I haven't done anything to you. Why waste this energy? But it has gotten so much better. I feel like something about the way Twitch is handling things now it's either the culture is changing to be less into that kind of behavior, or Twitch has cracked down on it. I'm not sure which. Maybe it's both. I'm not sure. But I've had to ban a lot less people from my chat recently, which is great. Yeah, it's been a lot better. Like everyone on the internet is going to get harassment when you put yourself out there, and the veil of anonymity it gives people a lot more cojones to do that kind of thing. So anyone's going to deal with it. And then women especially are going to get more of the like sexism and like stuff like that. But yeah, I'm very pleased with the way that gaming culture has gone. I mean, there's still a lot to work on, but in general, it has gotten so much better. I'm very proud of everybody.
And I think you're right. It definitely feels like there's corners have been turned for sure. Streaming, are you kind of still playing those same games? Are you kind of still, because I think you and I there was a period of time during kind of the lockdown phase. I think you and I were in a couple of the same lobbies playing things like Among Us and playing like these kind of games. Like, was it Code Names? Would you brought up the Code Name Massive?
I did play Code Names a lot. Yeah.
I was so bad at Among Us, by the way, so bad. Like I used to join these lobbies and I didn't know anything. It was embarrassing. There were moments I kind of really doubted myself as a human being, let alone a gamer. Even now, are you kind of always finding new things to play? Like, are you kind of finding new kind of interests gaming wise too? Like new games that you kind of go, oh, actually, I'm kind of into this. It's a completely different genre for me, but I'm digging it.
Yeah. Even recently, like yesterday, I played a new game and I'm like, oh, I really like this. I gotta play it again. Let's do it. Like, I do still also play Among Us, but I play a very modded version now. It's like completely unrecognizable from vanilla.
Yeah.
You may not like it.
Thank you. Thanks for the heads up, Cara. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So that I've always liked games where you kind of like not lie to your friends, but like you kind of just suss out who's telling the truth, who's not. I've always liked those kind of games. But like with the introduction of like Lethal Company and things like that, now there's a lot more Lethal Company clones. Those are really fun too. And I'm like, yeah, I could play these a lot as well. This is great. Yeah, so I agree. The pandemic and everything like that really brought a lot more streamers together, and more streamers showed up on the scene. And I think this is kind of a tangent, but I think right now, because that kind of thing is dropping off, like the viewership, the like huge viewership you saw during the pandemic is dropping off now. A lot of people are getting a little more disillusioned, and they're like, oh, maybe streaming is not for me. This is really hard. I can't really keep up like with bills now because we don't have that massive boon we had before. And everyone's feeling it, and it's rough. But like I think like you said, you just got to find the next game. You got to just keep moving on to something else you might enjoy that is successful.
Well, you got to diversify. And I think one thing we touched on it. Let's talk about it. Cosplay. You're the first cosplayer we've had on Hop on Comms, and this world absolutely fascinates me because there is such a huge celebration of cosplay in so many different areas now, be it Comic-Cons or you mentioned. Like, I love the fact, by the way, that you were kind of creating cosplay during your streams, multitasking, Cara. That's key. Doing what you have to do, but also streaming at the same time. Perfect. Were you always kind of into cosplay? Or was it always something you were kind of because I see are there certain kind of games or realms in which you kind of like to create certain, would you call them costumes for?
Yeah, so here's the thing. When I see something I like, I'm like, ooh, I want to do that. And then I do it. So I would see other people cosplaying these really cool characters. I'm like, ooh, I want to do that. And then I look up how to do it and I research and I make it happen. So I was cosplaying before I even started streaming. And the type of character I go for is like the badass armored lady, because I want to be a badass armored lady, like I want to be that. So I'm gonna be that, and that's always been my philosophy in life. It's like I want to do that, so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make it happen one way or another.
I mean, I think that's the thing. If you find kind of like a niche and like, okay, I like that, celebrating that kind of type of cosplay, I'm gonna go for. Because when I did the cosplay competition I mentioned in Dubai, there were some like the performances around cosplay as well. This one guy dressed up like the clown, like from It, and did this whole, like, it was wild, like this whole performance where I still have nightmares. It was dark, but he went to places I didn't think possible. But it was like, so I respect the commitment. That's the main thing, Cara. the commitments is crazy, really. Have you entered competitions and things as well?
I have. I entered the TwitchCon cosplay contest, and there were a couple others. I entered, like, this was before COVID happened, because during COVID there were no conventions, and that's unfortunately kind of where I dropped off of cosplay, because like without conventions, what's the point of cosplaying? So yeah, before that I went to like every Comic-Con, I went to every PAX, I went to every Anime Expo, every TwitchCon, and then COVID happened, and now I don't really go to any at all because it's still kind of hard to do that.
I guess coming back in some respect, it took a long time to kind of restart. But what I love, I think, about your cosplay in general as well, is like kind of like seeing the variety. You've got so much variety to it. Because before we chatted, I was looking at like your website as well as like show reels of your acting performances. You were in a Star Wars movie. Tell us everything about this, please, because this is your IMDb is rocking.
Thank you, but the Star Wars movie was more like a a fan movie. It wasn't like anything official.
I still love the fact that you kind of are doing these kind of projects. You kind of go, yeah, I'm into this. It sounds great. I mean, have you always been a bit of a Star Wars nerd? Was something you were just kind of interested in, like an acting opportunity? Or...
I mean, I've always liked science fiction. I've always loved high fantasy, all that. I love fiction, love fantasy, especially like the technology aspects. Like my parents are huge Trekkies, but also Star Wars fans. They love both.
God.
Yeah.
Cara, I'm such a nerd for Star Trek. Oh my God. Your parents and I got to hang out. I'm a TNG for lifer.
They are also TNG for life.
Yes. Come on, I love that. That's great. Honestly. And may I ask, sci-fi films for you, what would be your kind of, what would you say is your kind of like your favorite sci-fi of all time movie series? What's the thing?
Ooh. Okay, I was very impressed with the Star Trek movie with Chris Pine. Did you see that one?
I did. Yeah.
I really liked that one. I was like, this is really cool. I love this kind of reboot. This is awesome. And I watched other Star Trek movies, like the much older ones.
I'm Back to the Future is my go-to. Back to the Future is my thing. I live my life for Back to the Future.
Back to the Future is like the perfect movie, like objectively.
It actually is. I'd say there's nothing. People talk about kind of like revamping these things all the time. Don't touch that. Don't go near it. It's perfect. It's absolutely. I mean, I would. Oh God, there's still part of me that thinks one day I could meet Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd, and that would be the picture of all pictures. That it's still a dream.
That'd be so nice. In my apartment complex I used to live in before this, someone had a DeLorean in their garage, and the license plate was out of time. Oh my God. I took so many pictures of that thing.
Rightly so, Cara. I'm glad you did that. My wedding car at my wedding was a DeLorean fully kitted out like a time machine, and a guy dressed in a white plutonium suit with white hair, a doc, drove me to the wedding.
Okay, that's amazing. I love that.
Cara, I ain't gonna lie. Every email exchange we ever had over the course of 2 years was he would always call me Marty, and I would always call him Doc. And he was always in character in emails. Marty, the 1.21 gigawatts. Yeah, I was just like, this is the most crazy immersive experience ever. This was worth every single penny.
That's amazing. If I ever get married, I want to do something crazy like that. That's really cool.
There's outside the box, and there's that. I mentioned all the different kind of things you do, from cosplays to streaming. Is acting still a big thing for you that you want to kind of still pursue, and modeling as well? That's another thing you'll do too.
Before COVID, I was going out to auditions every week, doing gigs every week. And then COVID happened, and then everything was halted for like 2+ years. And I haven't quite gotten back into it yet, which is really sad, because I really do want to get more into it. But like, I luckily made a lot of like connections, and I got to meet a lot of people before that happened. And so now whenever I do gigs, it's more people hitting me up and being like, hey, you should do this thing. I think you'd be perfect for it. So that's mainly how I do most of my acting gigs now. I just wait for people to call me.
You and I both experienced being on like things like Twitch Rivals and kind of hosting these shows together as well, where networking is such a massive part of the business. I mean, it's such a huge part of the industry. How do you think how vital do you think networking has been in your career thus far as well?
Incredibly. Maybe 70% importance is networking. Because like a lot of people have the skills. But I think you also need to be able to present yourself as like a flexible person. You need to be willing to adapt to things, make sacrifices. You have to show people that you are serious about this thing so that they can rely on you as a source for what they need. And I think that's also a very big thing with networking. You need to show people that you are someone that will get the job done. You're not going to make a big deal out of things. You're going to be easygoing. Like, do you agree?
I think networking, most of the things that come my way, you say 70%. I think you're bang on there in terms of like percentage wise. Most things are through people that you've met through other things who kindly say, hey, this thing's happening. Do you want to get involved? You're like, hell yeah, I do. That sounds amazing. Like you kindly coming on the show. I'm like, Cara, we've worked together. We know each other. I'd love to have you on as a guest. You'd be amazing. The fact that you are West Coast based as well. Networking must be rife.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The Los Angeles, the industry here it's all networking. Almost all of it. You can be the most amazing actor or actress or what have you in the world, but if you don't know anyone, no one's going to know that you are a great actress or actor. You have to like put yourself out there. You have to like, okay, so for example, I really don't like parties or like after parties or like convention parties, that kind of thing. But every time I'm like, oh, I should go, I should meet people, I should network, I should get business cards, I should talk to companies, and like 50% of the time those networking opportunities have paid off. So like it's absolutely worth it to just put yourself out there, bite the bullet, just be social for one night out of the month. you just got to do it.
I'd say prior to COVID there was a lot more events to get together, and like game launches and PR bits and pieces where the game, do you agree, like there was a lot more for us to go to and to meet people in the same space? And that's kind of, I don't know if it's a budget thing or it's the landscape's changed now.
It has. It really has.
I don't know why we've seen this kind of big change, because I presume it's because they're thinking, hey, rather than us putting this massive event on with thousands of people turning up, let's just give everyone the code for free, the review code, give them the games. Online, the engagement will just go stratospheric. I mean, talking of networking, Cara, there's something that I've seen of yours recently. I thought I would. This is a classic example of me thinking that I'm great, and then Cara really puts me to shame here. I'm like, oh, Cara, this one time during COVID, I had to do this thing, and I had to interview a few people. And one of the people I had to interview at home was Snoop Dogg, and he comes on, and we're chatting over, online, and then you're like, hey, Adam, check this out, and you send me a video, Cara. You send me a video of you being in Snoop Dogg's bloody house. And I mean, that. Tell us about this because we're talking about networking, meeting people, and these random things that happen. How the hell were you in Snoop Dogg's house? Like, what happened?
That was again a networking thing. So I used to be kind of like a representative of this headset company, Lucid Sound. I'm wearing them right now. And like I just reached out to them randomly one time, and they said, "Oh yeah, sure, yeah, I'll give you this headset. Also, we're going to PAX. Do you want to come?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." So I went to PAXs with them for like 4 years in a row, and someone who worked with them knew Snoop Dogg, was like his friend, and he knew that I did streaming and casting and hosting and stuff. So he's like, "Hey, Snoop Dogg is doing like a little like Madden tournament, and we're trying to put on like something for fun. Do you want to come interview him?" I'm like, yes. So I go down to, I think he calls it the Compound over in Inglewood. And it's huge. It's massive. It's just like a giant warehouse where he just has a bunch of random stuff. And one of those random things is just a bunch of computers set up like for tournaments in one of his rooms. Also, it was very, very smoky. There was weed everywhere.
Expected.
Yeah, so they put on this whole production of his Madden tournament with his friends. It was just his friends, but it was so much fun. And the producers are like, all right, he lost. Give him a really hard time with the questions. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. So I'm like, wow, Snoop, that loss was awful. How do you feel about that? And like, we just went back and forth, and he's like, how do you think I feel about that? Just silly stuff like that. And then we high-fived at the end, and he was so sweet. Like, Snoop Dogg was so sweet. I was so surprised at how nice he was, how cool he was, how chill he was. And then the funniest thing is that he has this guy who just makes blunts for him, and this guy will just leave them in random spots around the room. And then when Snoop is done with his blunt or joint or whatever, he'll throw it away and then just pick it up from wherever he sees it and just start smoking again. I'm just watching this guy. Like, he's like the artisan of blunt making. Like, he was like so meticulous about it. It was so funny. And then there were just tables of like weed companies, and they just had piles of weed, just like raw, like just the leaves, just the raw leaves in a pile. Like, you could like bury yourself in this.
I mean, I've got so many questions for the last thing you just said. Like, are you kind of encouraged, like, just help yourself, like just go nuts, like?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't really smoke or anything. I don't judge people who do. It's not for me. But I'm pretty sure I got contact high that day without.
I mean, it's Snoop Dogg's compound. I wouldn't expect anything less. I mean that's the thing. I mean, what a story. I mean, I could only imagine this guy who prides himself on, like, what's your job role? I make blunts for Snoop Dogg. I mean, that's my thing. I don't expect anything less. Because the thing is, with Snoop Dogg, he's one of those characters as well that we see has kind of, as you said, like Madden and things, he's kind of found himself in the gaming world. He's been kind of around, and that's something we've seen over the years. A lot of kind of like mainstream stars have kind of made their way into kind of games or vice versa. Were there any nerves related to it at all? Obviously, you're streaming at home so much, and suddenly you're in this kind of IRL situation with one of the biggest stars on the planet. Did you kind of get nerves at those kind of things, or did you kind of just embrace the experience?
I don't really get nervous much anymore. Like, especially living in LA, you meet celebrities like more often than you would think. Especially like when I'm like kind of adjacent to the industry. So like there have been times I'd go to a party and I'm like, oh wow, that's Brad Pitt. That's crazy. And then you just move on. like I've met Taylor Swift, and I've met a bunch of people from like TV shows. And like the whole time you just like, you kind of, when you talk to them, you're like, oh, this is just a regular person. This, like, they're just doing regular person things. So I feel like I've luckily been able to get that perspective. Like, this is just a regular person.
You were in a Taylor Swift music video. I mean, that alone is. And am I right in saying you were Tessa Thompson's body double in Westworld as well?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. The list goes on, Cara. This is amazing. I think if there's anything that I've learned from you today, what was Taylor Swift like, by the way? For good times, good experience?
Oh, she was so sweet. I was just a background actress. Like, I can't even call it actress. I was a background prop, basically. And it was like 15 of us or something. And she comes over to us and she's like, all right, girls, let's have a good shoot. Let's make sure everything runs smoothly. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And then we all just did our thing. So she was just very kind, very nice. She ate lunch with all of us. That's
awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
Because I would say the one thing I've learned from chatting to you today is the fact that, I think anyone who watches or listens to this, we always suggest that, in this world of gaming, you kind of see all the kind of like the stories of like the success in these different realms. A lot of time people are kind of, they're finding their feet as they go, kind of meeting new people. They're always generating new opportunities. And there's so many things out there. I think it is about kind of not just focusing necessarily on one thing, but kind of like doing all these different things. And look at the experiences you've had along the way have just been like incredible. You've done some amazing things, and long may it continue. I've loved it. I love the fact Sober's been in your arms the entire time, by the way.
Oh, yeah. He's a good boy.
So is Sober having the babies or no?
No. He's the father.
Are they pythons? What are they?
They are pythons. Yes, they're ball pythons. I guess in the UK you call them royal pythons.
Royal pythons, yeah. I would not know. I like snakes. Spiders, Cara. Absolutely no chance.
I've always wanted a tarantula.
Oh, God.
But Jordan, who lives with me, he said he would burn the house down if I got one. So
I can imagine kind of like a Home Alone situation. It escapes and he just like loses his mind. Burn the house down. Just burn the house down. Get it, just burn it down. Cara, I've loved talking to you. Thank you so much for being here on Hop on Comms. It's been so interesting. And where can people find you online as well? Where can we find you?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter or X. Dude, I don't even know.
I don't even know.
Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, and it's all karacorvus. Karacorvus.
Love it. Thanks so much for chatting to us, and best of luck with the coming arrivals, plural. And that just might blow my mind. A snake mama. I love it. Thanks for chatting to us, Cara. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Hop on Comms. You can be sure to support the channel by liking the video if you did, leaving us a comment as well. We love reading those. And of course, subscribing to the channel to ensure that you never miss an upload as well. We are across all audio platforms, on socials as well. You can find each of those in the description down below. Thanks for taking the time out to watch this, and we hope you enjoyed Ali A being on the show.